Arbor Day? What's Arbor Day? And is it Jewish? Let's find out on Jews Did It First. Hey everyone, I know it's been a while, and sorry for that. I have actually been concentrating on putting all this into book form. It's gone through a couple of edits, and hopefully sometime this year we'll have something to put out there. But because this next week is a special Jewish holiday, I wanted to put out this episode. And that is on Arbor Day. Now, Arbor Day, it's a kind of a boring thing. A lot of people don't know about it, but that's okay. We're going to find out a lot of interesting things, okay? So Arbor Day, Arbor is Latin for tree day, basically, and it's a relatively new holiday. It was conceived of in the mid-1800s, and it wasn't actually made into a national holiday until 1970 under Richard Nixon. So that was established as a day to recognize and celebrate trees and encourage people to plant them. Around Nebraska, actually, was the original holiday. That's where it started. And if you know anything about Judaism, you might recognize a similar day on the Jewish calendar. In fact, there are 2 days that are important for trees. One is the first of the month of Tishrei, known as Rosh Hashanah, and the other is the 15th of Shvat, which, like I said, is coming up next week, next Thursday, actually. And that is commonly called Tu Bishvat. And Tu Bishvat is known as the New Year for trees, and it's actually been around for thousands of years. And yes, Jews did it first. So in America, Arbor Day originated at a meeting of the State Board of Agriculture on January 4th, 1872, by a newspaper editor. And he actually became the U.S. Secretary of Agriculture later on. His name was Julius Sterling Morton. The first Arbor Day was set for April 10th of that year of 1872. And it's estimated actually that over 1 million trees were planted on that day. Today in the U.S., it's celebrated on the last Friday of April. However, there's an even older observance of Arbor Day. The first official Arbor Day celebration was held in 1805 in a small Spanish village called, I'm probably going to ruin this name, but that's okay, Villanueva de la Sierra. And that was held by a priest named Don Ramon Vacas Rojo. So while Napoleon was conquering Europe, Don Ramon planted trees and made it a festival because of the importance, this is a quote from him, supposedly, the importance of trees for health, hygiene, decoration, nature, environment, and customs. So all over the internet, including Wikipedia, and American arborists and homestead gardens, all these different places, they claim that the Spanish village of Mondoñedo held the first documented arbor plantation festival in the world, organized by the mayor in 1594. So this is about 200 years earlier than the Spanish one that we mentioned earlier. Although this is also in Spain, but whatever. And it's also said that that place where they had this celebration in 1594 remains as the Alameda de los Remedios, and there's a humble granite marker and a bronze plate to recall the event. So I scoured the internet for a picture of this marker and some historical proof that this event happened in 1594. I even contacted Spain's Institute of Tourism, but I couldn't find anything. Regardless, the Jewish Arbor Day goes back millennia. The Torah describes several tithes and offerings that had to be brought and when to bring them. There are 4 basic types of tithes. There's Truma, which is 1/50th of the crops that are given to the Kohanim, the priests. There's Meiser Rishon, which is the first tithe given to the Levites. Meiser Sheni, the second tithe, which is taken to Jerusalem to be eaten in a state of ritual purity. And there's Meiser Ani, which are tithes for the poor. And those are given to the poor in lieu of Meiser Sheni in the 3rd and 6th year of the 7-year sabbatical cycle. So these were given to the tribe of Levi, since they didn't have any official portion in the land of Israel and spent their time serving in the Holy Temple. Another agricultural law is Orla. This is a law that fruits from the first 3 years of planting must not be eaten. And this is where Rosh Hashanah comes in, the first holiday that we said is important to trees. Plants that were planted before Rosh Hashanah belong to the previous year, and those that were planted after are identified by that year. So it's a day that delineates when the 3 years of prohibition begin for that Orla prohibition that you're not allowed to eat the fruits of the first 3 years. When does that year begin? It depends on which side of Rosh Hashanah it was planted on. So back to the tithing, that's where Tu Bishvat comes in. The Mishnah teaches that on the first of Shvat is the new year for the tree. This ruling is in accordance with the statement of Beit Shammai, but Beit Hillel say that the new year for trees is on the 15th of Shvat, on Tu Bishvat. So just like Rosh Hashanah affects the Orla, the 15th of Shvat acts as a marker for when fruits are considered to be a product of 1 year versus the next for tithing. So the fruit from a tree that formed prior to Tu Bishvat belongs to the previous year, the previous tithing year, and cannot be tithed together with fruit that was formed after that date. But what about it being a holiday on the Jewish calendar? I mean, that's all nice for tithing and agricultural laws and stuff like that, but how do we get a holiday out of this? The earliest indication that we have of the 15th of Shvat being an important day is from a book of poems, which was intended to be added to the prayers recited on Tu Bishvat. These are from Rabbi Yehuda ben Hillel Halevi, and it was found in the Cairo Geniza from the 10th century CE, over 500 years prior to that Mundaniedo celebration that may or may not have happened. So shortly after that, in a response to a request to establish a fast day on the 15th of Shvat, Rabbeinu Gershom, who lived from 960 to 1040, he explained that just as one does not fast on the other days that are called Rosh Hashanah in the Mishnah, so too one does not fast on the 15th of Shvat because it's called a Rosh Hashanah. So likewise, there are other authorities who prohibit fasting and penitential prayers on that day. So there seems to be in history this idea that it is a special day. It's not just something that's used for tithing. There's something special and important about this day. But what about celebrating it? I mean, what do you do to commemorate this, so to speak, special day of the 15th of Shvat, which is the new year for the trees? So the main observance is to eat fruits on this day. And it specifically relates to fruit-bearing trees, because the whole point is that when do you tithe the fruits that grew? So we eat fruits, and it's especially common to eat the fruits of the land of Israel, which are grapes, olives, dates, figs, and pomegranates. I mean, barley and wheat also, but those aren't so fruity. The first mention of this custom comes from the mid-1500s in a work called Tikkun Yisachar by Rabbi Yisachar ben Mordechai ibn Susan. A contemporary of his, Rabbi Yitzchak Luria, known as the Holy Arizal, and he was sort of the father of modern-day Kabbalah, he was said to have had a special Seder on Tu B'Shvat. Kind of like there's a Passover Seder, and that can be found in a work known as Pre-Eitz Hadar. And that book has no real known origin. There's legends around it, but when exactly, it originated. So this Seder that the Arizal had, this is also in the 1500s, maybe 1400s. This was printed in that book. And on Chabad.org, I found a speech by the Lubavitcher Rebbe about Tu B'Shvat, about the deeper significance of Tu B'Shvat. And I'll quote what it says on Chabad.org. It's not too long. So just to finish off this section here, expounding on the deeper meanings behind this custom, the Lubavitcher Rebbe explains that unlike wheat, which is considered a staple, fruits are often eaten purely for pleasure. The Torah is at times compared to bread and water, which are necessities, and at other times to wine, olive oil, and date honey, which are foods for pleasure. This refers to two dimensions of the Torah: the revealed part, which is necessary at all times and for all Jews, and the deeper mystical part of Torah, which especially in earlier generations wasn't studied by many people at all. As the exile and the spiritual state of the world grow even darker, just sticking to the bare bones necessities is no longer enough. It is imperative that one study the deeper, mystical aspects of the Torah, the fruit that infuses pleasure, strength, and spiritual energy into our day and service of our Creator. Thus, it is no wonder that the custom of eating fruits on the 15th of Shvat gained prominence at the same time as the mystical teachings of Kabbalah began to spread. This inner dimension of Torah infuses us with newfound vitality to finally finish off our task to light up the darkness of the world and usher in the ultimate redemption. So I hope you enjoyed that insight into Arbor Day and the significance on the Jewish calendar of Tu Bishvat, of the 15th of Shvat.